A burglar breaks into a house. He climbs onto the roof in the middle of the night, thinking he's come up with the perfect new way to enter a home without being noticed. But instead of sneaking in, he slips, crashes straight through the roof, and lands in the living room. And here's the craziest part. After falling through the roof while trying to rob the place, the burglar decides to sue the homeowners. Yes, he claims he's the victim. This isn't a joke. It really happened. And tonight, you're going to hear the full story of how a criminal tried to get rich by suing the people he was trying to rob, and how the case became one of the wildest courtroom moments in America. It started in a quiet suburban neighborhood. A couple named Mark and Linda lived in a modest two-story home. They weren't rich, they weren't flashy, they were just two hard-working people who wanted peace and safety. Mark always made sure the windows were locked, the doors reinforced, and the motion lights installed. But the one thing he never thought about protecting was the roof. Meanwhile, miles away, a man named Tony Ramirez had a different idea. Tony was a small-time criminal with a big imagination. He thought he'd found a loophole. Most homeowners protect the ground level, so he would start breaking in from above. One rainy night, Tony climbed onto Mark and Linda's roof. The tiles were wet, the wood underneath was old, and as soon as Tony tried to take one careful step, crack! The roof gave out instantly. Tony didn't have time to scream before he dropped 20 feet, smashing straight into the living room floor. He groaned, rolled over, and pulled himself onto the couch in the very home he intended to rob. Injured, embarrassed, and furious, Tony blamed not himself, but the homeowners. Upstairs, Mark and Linda woke up to the sound of the crash. At first, they thought it was thunder. Then they heard a voice. Mark grabbed a baseball bat. Linda grabbed her phone. When they walked downstairs, they froze. A stranger, covered in roof insulation and broken plaster, was lying on their couch like he lived there. Linda screamed. Mark shouted, "Who are you?" Tony clutched his ribs and said, "I'm hurt. I think this is your fault. Your roof isn't safe for me to walk on." Minutes later, the police arrived. They arrested Tony and sent him to the hospital. And that easily could have been the end, except Tony decided he wasn't finished. From his hospital bed, he contacted a lawyer and filed a civil lawsuit against Mark and Linda. His claim? The homeowners were responsible for his injuries because their roof wasn't safe for him to walk on. In court, everyone was stunned. The judge looked exhausted. The gallery was full of people who just wanted to witness the madness. Tony sat confidently, acting like a man who deserved sympathy. His lawyer argued that the roof was structurally unsound, and the homeowners should have known someone might climb onto it, even if that someone was a criminal. The homeowner's attorney simply responded, "Your Honor, he was breaking into their house." The courtroom burst into laughter, but for Mark and Linda, this was terrifying, because in some states, trespassers sometimes can sue homeowners. This case wasn't a joke to them. Their entire future was on the line. During testimony, Tony admitted he planned the break-in. He admitted he climbed the roof intentionally. He admitted he knew it was raining and slippery, but he insisted the homeowners were responsible for not making the roof stronger. At one point, he even said, "If they had reinforced it, I wouldn't have fallen." Mark's lawyer looked at him and asked, "So you believe homeowners should build stronger roofs in case criminals decide to walk on them?" Tony nodded and said, "Yes." The judge buried his face in his hands. The audience gasped. Tony's lawyer continued pushing, showing x-rays of Tony's injuries, talking about his pain, describing his trauma. He demanded $850,000. Mark and Linda nearly fainted. They had done nothing wrong, yet they were being attacked in court. Finally, the judge returned with his verdict. He stared directly at Tony and said, "Sir, you were injured while committing a crime. You were not invited. You were not authorized. You endangered yourself. You have no legal right to compensation." Tony swallowed hard. The judge continued, "Your lawsuit is dismissed, and you are ordered to pay the homeowners' legal fees." The courtroom erupted in applause. Mark and Linda broke down in relief. Tony went to jail for the break-in and for filing a fraudulent lawsuit. Mark and Linda repaired their roof, strengthened their security, and eventually learned to laugh about the madness of the whole situation. And this case became a legendary example of how bizarre the legal world can get, and how sometimes, when you try to cheat the system, you end up falling, literally, through it.